Welcome to the Ranchonomics Podcast, where we empower you to build a better ranch and transform your operations into a thriving business. I'm your host, John Haskell. Let's get started. All right, welcome to the Ranchonomics Podcast. I am John Haskell, and today I am joined by Cinnamon Lenhart, my good friend and business partner. And today we are going to talk about Ranching.FYI and an upcoming Sim to Win event that we have. We're going to talk about a specific event we have. We have a few of these planned. So we will get to that in a little bit. But Cinnamon, welcome to the Ranchonomics Podcast. Glad to have you here.
Thanks, John. I'm so excited to be here today.
You bet. Why don't you give us a little background? There are a lot of people that don't know who you are. We'd need to introduce you.
So I'm Cinnamon Lenhart. Like John said, I'm one of his business partners on Ranching.FYI. I live in Northeast Wyoming on a ranch about 45 minutes or so north of Gillette. I'm a fifth generation rancher here. So I inherited the ranch from my father, who got it from my grandfather, who got it from his father, who bought the ranch right after World War II. And when they came here, there was no electricity, no power, no anything on the ranch. So everything that my husband and I get to enjoy today has come from the generations of work ahead of us, which we are very thankful for, of course. And so I grew up knowing that I wanted to ranch. I grew up knowing that this would be my home. I grew up knowing that this is where I was going to come back to. I went to college at the University of Wyoming. I served as a Wyoming FFA state officer, worked for National FFA for a while. I got a degree in ag education, got to student teach with a wonderful man in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and then married my husband and moved here to the ranch, where I came home and I kind of struggled to find my place on the ranch. I didn't know exactly what I was supposed to be doing as a new college graduate home. And so I started cramming marketing materials as much as possible and studying and learning and figuring out all I could learn about why agriculture doesn't market themselves very well. And so after I did that, then I started building websites, and our ranch became my first test subject, if you will. And I marketed us out there on social media and websites and all of that. Really began to like that. Met Wally Olson when I invited him to come to a conference up here in Gillette. He then connected me with you, John. You and I have worked together basically ever since. I helped build Ranch Right's website, Ranching.FYI's website, all the things. We've got connected and then grew and built into Ranching.FYI, which is what it is. So you're right. Most of people don't really know or deal with me because I'm the behind the scenes kind of tech side of Ranching.FYI. I build the stuff and email the people, and I'm the signature at the bottom of the email and stuff like that. But I'm also the full-time rancher that's doing other things too. So it's fun.
Love it. Very good. So give me a little history or an explanation of Ranching.FYI. You don't necessarily have to give history, but what are we trying to do there? What are we trying to accomplish?
Yeah, so I probably will tell a little bit of history just because I feel like it's come such a big full circle since we started it. So when Ranching.FYI first started, the three of us agreed that there was a ton of really good information out there. And we thought that it was really important to gather and collect all of this information from people before they passed away or before the knowledge got overtaken, right? So we started just solely as a collective of all of this information. And then it turned into sharing some of the live webinars as we were recording them and starting the podcast and just, again, trying to get all of this wealth of information in one spot and being kind of a hub of education, which then as we were doing that, we kept finding other online courses, other things that people needed, and started building some of those our own. And what we figured out is that there's lots of good information out there, but people were struggling to implement said information once they learn it, right? There's lots of good professional development in agriculture. We're very lucky about that. But the implementing it and the taking it to the next level is the part that we felt like was missing. And so we've been working kind of since the first of the year on that path. And as you know, you and I have spent hours and hours brainstorming and working on this and getting it all put together. But what we've landed on are kind of two different routes. One is our online forums that are available on Ranching.FYI that people can get on and comment and roundtable discuss and brainstorm and solve problems and have that kind of like sounding board that they maybe don't have with their own family or friends or neighborhood. And then also the strategic ranch simulations, which is what we wanted to talk about today. Our first event for that is coming up here in October. And those are way more about getting people to crunch numbers and get into it and test what may or may not happen in certain situations so that they're prepared and they feel like they know what's coming before it hits them. It's kind of their chance to use their own numbers and expand and just like, I don't know, think through the choice before it comes, if that makes sense. Is that how you would describe it, John?
Yep. And we're going to talk more about this here in a little bit. But yes, that is very much how I would describe it. I think a lot of people, you learn something in a book and then you go to apply it. And there's usually a lot of difference between what you saw in the book and what you see on the ground. And so how do you make it so that we can go home and actually implement things and be effective? So that's, I think, what we're focused on.
Yeah. And we've studied a lot of people, the first responders, Olympians, all of these people that are out there, our military that are in high stress situations, having to make decisions on the ground. And we figured out what are they doing to do it. And we came up with the fact that they train in these war games, simulation type ideas. And so ranching is a high pressure situation. It's a high intense situation. It's very emotional. There's a lot on the line for a lot of people. So why aren't we training in that same type of environment as we ask those people to? And so that's when we kind of came up with the idea of simulations, war games of ranching, if you will, to truly train in those environments that we put ourselves in or get ourselves in, I guess we should say.
Yeah, good. And we'll just go on with this a little bit because the emotional impacts of the things that happen, right? Whether they are drought or whether they are wild market swings or whether they're changes in our personal finance, that sort of thing, those have a big impact on our ability to be effective. And one of the things, just as you mentioned, why does the military, why do first responders, why do they run scenarios? Well, they run scenarios because you don't really know how you're going to respond until you're in one of those. And my hope is that after doing this a few times, and especially during the session where we will do it kind of multiple times, over and over again within a couple day period, is that when you hit your next bump in the road, when the market changes, right, when the weather changes, when things don't go according to plan, which they never do, then you will have the mental fortitude and you will, have the preparation to think, oh, I've kind of already been here before, right? I've seen this before. It's not a new situation where I suddenly have to figure everything out. Again, I don't want an ambulance crew showing up on the scene and being like, oh, what do we do next? Like, it should be bang, bang, bang. Let's go, right? If there's a crisis in an airplane, we don't think up the solution on the spot. Like, we have a series of steps that we go through that they're not a recipe per se, but they're a series of steps of, hey, these are the questions we need to ask and answer in order to, do triage or to do whatever the next most important thing is. And I think people get caught in this because they expect that having the knowledge is enough. And what we continually see is that, there's a huge amount of just mental preparation, knowing how to be in the moment and, knowing how to live in today, like we talk about with Bob, and how to, sort of perform at your best. But also, let's practice in a way that is realistic, right? We scrimmage in basketball. We do all kinds of things that are practices for the real thing. And we want to be able to do that same thing for business.
Yeah. And let's get those rhythms and routines figured out so that you can easily draw on them and have them as tools in your toolbox whenever the situation comes up, or apply them to other situations that maybe you haven't even simulated yet.
Correct.
Yeah. I think that's huge.
Very good. Let's talk about the conference dates and the plans, or the class dates and the plans for this. This is going to be a marketing focused class. So we are focused on, how are we making money through the buying and selling of animals? Think of it as an add-on to a Wally Olson type class where he is giving you the academic knowledge you need. And now we're going to give you some of the more situational things. What's going to happen over that 3-day period, and when is it going to happen?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So it's all focused on that changing market. We know things are changing. So how can we deal with it when things are changing? And so our first event's going to be October 28th through the 30th. It is in Gillette, Wyoming. It's hosted at the Best Western here in Gillette. So there's transportation to and from the airport if you need it, all of those type of things. But that's where it's going to be, is in Gillette, October 28th through the 30th. And it's for all types of producers. So it doesn't matter if you're a cow-calf producer, a stocker producer, or just somebody that loves to learn and wants to dive into a subject. It's for you. You're going to need to know some of your own numbers, and you're going to have to be willing to step out of the box, right? And get into a new box to think maybe a little bit differently. But if you're willing to do those things and you want to come, I think this event's going to be really, really fun. Let's see. We'll walk through maybe the 3 days of what it's going to look like. So day one, we're going to show up, check in, get to know each other, figure out, what simulations are and why we're going to use them and just kind of understand what we're getting ourselves into. We're going to also make sure that everybody understands what numbers they need, make sure they brought them correctly, crunch whatever numbers we need to, just get everybody on the same page with background knowledge. And then as soon as we have that done, we're going to dive right into our first simulation, and it's going to be kind of a look back at history one. So for example, this first one, we are going to dive right into Olson Ranch LLC over the last 10 years. Wally's going to open up his numbers and give us a prime example of how he has ranched through the ups and downs of the market, and just let us look at it and quiz him and study it and figure out what we could have done different, what went well, what didn't work, all the things. Then on day 2, participants are going to take over management of essentially 2 different operations. We're going to take over a cow-calf and a stocker operation, and we're going to have a little bit of a contest. We're going to see which tables make decisions in the markets, what decisions people make. We're going to see who makes the most money by the end of the day. We're going to push each other to maybe step out and do some things that we wouldn't have done, and just kind of challenge with ranches that we don't necessarily own, but yet we get to own for the day. And then on day 3 is what I think is the coolest part of it, is people get to bring their numbers and bring us their ranch and their numbers and the issues that they have. And we're going to simulate right through the same discussions they would have at the kitchen table, but they're going to have these experts in the room that they can offer advice, that they can answer questions, that they can provide them tools, or that they can do whatever they need for help and support to get through it. So we're going to look back at the past. We're going to deal with some situations that are in the current market. And then we're also going to deal with their own personal operation and give them the chance to apply it. Does that make sense, John?
Makes a ton of sense. I think it's going to be a pretty intense program. There's going to be a lot going on. As with any kind of war game situation, the idea is that this is going to have a full immersion feel. So I would kind of like, as with any war game, when you encounter the real life situation, for it to feel easier than what you go through during this. So I would expect 3 pretty intense days.
Yeah, I think so. But I also think they'll be very rejuvenating for people. And the idea, right? We should be having a lot of fun during this. It should expect emotions to go high and low and all in between during it. But I think people are going to really, really enjoy it and hopefully take something away from it.
Awesome. Very good. All right. Review the conference dates, or the dates again.
Yep. So they're October 28th through the 30th in Gillette, Wyoming. You can go to Ranching.FYI to sign up. So www.Ranching.FYI to sign up. All you have to do is scroll down. You'll see buy tickets right there on the homepage. You can click join here. Any of the links will get you there, and you can buy tickets there, or email us at Ranching.FYI@gmail.com, and we can send you a direct link to it. Also, if you don't want to look on the website.
Love it. Okay. Anything else we need to talk about for now?
No, I think that pretty well does it. I'm excited. We already are filling up, so I hope people take advantage and jump on really quick.
Good. And again, the intent is to do a couple of these a year, probably in different areas of the country with different educational focuses. Again, the point of this is for it to be a teaching tool. It's all well and good to sit in class and learn these things. I'm a big fan of that. But then the key to getting to action, which is what we always come back to, is, learning the next steps, which is how do you get from knowing it to actually applying it in your business?
Yep. I think that's exactly right.
All right. That sounds wonderful. Cinnamon, thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, John.
Okay. And again, that's Ranching.FYI. So look up the website there, and we'll see you soon. Thank you for tuning into the Ranchnomics podcast. We hope this episode helped you win today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with a friend.